PrepSpin.
Well, what's up, everybody? William Warfield here as we are in the Bluegrass Orthopedic Studios once again. And tonight's show is going to be awesome because we got South Laurel in the house. Coach Chris Souder will be joining me here shortly. And, man, I got to be honest, you know, that game that they played there in Rupp Arena against number 1 Sacred Heart, that was an amazing victory for South Laurel, beating the number 1 team in the state. Unfortunately, all that came to a halt, and we'll talk about that with Coach Chris Souder. So I'm going to bring Coach in. And, Coach, how are you? How's everything going?
I'm good, Wade. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Coach. I know you're still reminiscing about that victory there at Rupp Arena, and I know it had its up and then it's had its down when play was stopped. So, Coach, what was going through your mind first off with the win, and what was going through your mind after the game and you found out that the tournament had to stop?
Well, with the win, early in January, they put it on us pretty good. They beat us by 24, and we didn't play very well. Not to take away from them, they're a great team, and so we knew we had some work to do. And when the draw came out, and we knew, if we won our region, that's more than likely we were going to play. So once we were able to win our region, and we went to work on Sacred Heart, and we knew then that we were going to have to play a little bit different. I've been coaching for a long time. And we pressed. I press every game. In fact, I told them in that game that might be the first game in 20-something years I haven't pressed. And I just felt like we could, and they'd run through us. And so we kind of built a game plan for them, and we're ready. So and getting Rachel Presley eligible right there at the end of the season helped us too, because it kind of negated the Clemens kid who just really hurt us. So we had a good game plan. Did a great job. And getting that win was so special, just for the fact of the number 1 team in the state of Kentucky, and this bunch that I had coached had been through so much. Those seniors had lost in the region semifinals 3 or 4 straight years. So to get over that hurdle and not to just be satisfied with getting to Rupp Arena and able to beat the number 1 team in the state of Kentucky was pretty impressive. And you go from that high to I've won state championships and those things like that, but that win right there was it was an ultra high just because what we were able to accomplish. And then to walk back in the tunnel, I still didn't have a clue our kids are celebrating. And the guy that kind of gives you your host that walks you back to the locker room, he whispers in my ear, it's like, hey, this has been suspended. And I'm like, what? And he's like, it's been suspended. I was like, for today? For good? And he's like, well, I don't know. He said, I'm just giving you a heads up because we're fixing to go to the interview room, and I'm sure somebody's going to ask you. So I told our staff, look, don't say anything to the kids right now, but I have to tell the 3 seniors that are going to be, on the podium with me. So I told them when they came out, I said, look, they've suspended it. And they said the same thing I did. I was like, don't ask me more questions. I don't know.
Yeah. So
sure enough, we get in there, and that's the first question they ask us. So it's kind of like that ultra high, and then somebody comes and just punches you in the gut. So that was pretty tough to handle. And then I'm still thinking, they'll make this up next week. They'll do something. But then you start hearing everything, and then we come out and we see they had sent Henderson and Marshall County home, and then it started really hitting that, this is serious stuff.
Yeah. At Rupp Arena when we were sitting there, we're courtside, we're doing the production and everything, rumors started to fly around, right around the third quarter. Some of the broadcasters that were doing play-by-play that was getting ready for the next game had spoke, to us during a commercial break, and it was like, we're not sure if we're going to get to finish this thing out or not. And then we get this note passed. Commissioner Tackett's doing a press conference after the game, and that's when it kind of hit us, because we had just seen that there was other organizations that were basically suspending the season, basically suspending their events, things like that. So yeah, it's tough, this virus thing going around, and it continues to shut down a lot of things, not just the Sweet 16, Coach.
Yeah, it is, and this is something that, like I said in the press conference, I don't have any ill will towards KHSAA. Their hands were kind of tied. They had to do it. we were at the time like, they could have let them play today, but I don't know that it would have made much difference. And there's a lot of pressure. I wouldn't want to have been in Commissioner Tackett's position to make that call, and that's a tough call, and a lot of dreams were smashed right there. However, his number one job is the safety of student athletes, and
Yeah.
so you can't, in those large gatherings, and so it's just, I told our kids it's just something that happens, and you can't control it, and it's something that none of us have ever experienced. So, but I told them, and I told our kids, when we got on the bus, it was really quiet to go back to the hotel, and everybody's almost like you had a feeling of that we kind of lost. So I stood up on the bus and says, "We're not doing this. You just had a great win, probably the best win in the program in 20 years or so. You've accomplished a lot." And I told you all when even before the regional championship that I felt like we'd already won because of everything we'd been through and how hard we worked. And so either way, it's a happy ending. So I told them, this is not gloom and doom. Mm-hmm. We're not going to pout. We just had a great win. We're going to go eat. We're going to have a good time. And at the time, I had already talked to our principal, and I said, let's just stay till Sunday. Let's have a good time. Let's go to movies. Let's do fun things. And he was like, absolutely. You guys have deserved it. You've earned it. So, so once again, they went right back to having fun. It didn't take much convincing. But then the next day, we spent the night. The next day, a principal called and said, hey, the KHSA's put this dead period in, so you guys are going to have to come home. So we left right before lunch to get home. And but, once again, I told our seniors that regardless of what happens, this is before the coronavirus stuff, it's happy ending regardless.
Yeah.
So your career is going to end on Rupp Arena's floor. And, usually it's only the state champion that gets to end their career, with a win. There's only one team. There were several teams that finished with a win. However, I told our kids we were the last team to play on that floor for the season. It even ran through my mind when I was there, hey, let's cut the nets down. I don't think they would have liked that too much. Some other schools, Bullitt East and Casey and Ryle, might not have liked that too much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's true, though. I mean, you played the last game there at Rupp. You defeated the number one team in the state, in a lot of the rankings there. I think everybody had them ranked number one. But, I mean, you were the last team to play on that floor, and especially Rupp Arena. Your two state championships that you've got, Coach, under your belt with Mercer County was up at Northern Kentucky University. How does that – I don't want you to compare that, playing – for a championship compared to this game, but what's the big difference you think as far as playing on that floor? Playing on Rupp as opposed to playing on NKY.
Right, and like I said, you can't take away. There's no other feeling than winning a state championship as a coach, and
right.
I had with Mercer was special with that bunch of kids, and so that was an awesome experience, and I don't care if it was outside. That's an awesome experience to be able to achieve that. Yeah. But I told our kids at the South. That growing up as a boy in Kentucky, it's everybody's dream. If you play basketball, you want to play at Rupp Arena. Mm-hmm. And I played at Harrodsburg High School. Of course, it's no longer there. But our teams were never good enough to get there, so it was a dream to play on Rupp Arena's floor. So the next best thing I told the team was, "Hey, I get to coach here." So for me, they helped me achieve a dream as well. My son got to play on that court. He was on Mercer's 2013 team, and so that played, Dunbar beat him in the first round.
Yeah.
So, it was pretty cool that, my son was able to play there. And then for me to be able to coach there, of course, he was on the bench with me, was pretty special as well. So it's a feeling like no other, being growing up in Kentucky, to step on that floor.
Your teams over the years, the teams that have won it all, with Mercer County and now with South Laurel, you guys shot the three very well. And I looked up and down. I was like, I'm just curious. I'm just curious how South Laurel shot the three this year. And I got it written down here, Coach. Amara Steele, she shot 39% from three. Allie Collette, 45% for three. Or sorry, 39% for three for Allie. And then Sydney Hall was 45% from three. 37% from Brianna Howard, 37% from Clara Collins, and then Rachel Presley, the only 2 threes she hit all season was in that game at Rupp Arena. She hit both of them, was 100%.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. And I did some looking too, and I think we made 366 threes as on the year.
Yep.
So I did some digging today. I actually texted some people at Mercer today, and it's like, how many did we hit 2017 and 18? I didn't look it up, and so he sent it to me, my stat guy. In 2017, we made 331 threes. 2018, we made 358. Last year at South Laurel, we made 364, and then this year we made 366. And the cool thing about that is I went back and looked at KHSA records, and they don't really have it updated. It looks like from 2017. And the most threes hit up until date, up until 2017, was by Clinton County. They made 313 threes back in, I think, 2005. They had really good teams then. So, those last 4 years, the two at Mercer and two at South, we kind of smashed that. So it's pretty cool. And the one impressive about this year is, we were 27-6. That's 33 games. And at Mercer in 2018, we hit 358. Well, we were 36-6. So, the fact of that, we probably would have hit over 400 threes if we played that amount of games and a chance to finish the state tournament. But we had some games this year was just phenomenal. We had a game where we hit 19 threes in a game, and then in the region semifinals, usually things slow down in the region. You don't score as much. You're a little bit more deliberate, and we're playing Clay County, and Clay County had Coach Burchell there. He had a great game plan. It was basically number one, he didn't want us to have it, so he passed it a gazillion times before they shot. And then he was going to take away our big three. You guys, Allie, Mary, and Sid, you're not shooting threes and even double up some. So they left Bree Howard. They just didn't guard her.
Yeah.
And last year, teams would do that, and she might struggle a little bit. And, well, just to give you an idea how tough our team was and how you had to guard everybody, she was 7 of 8 from the three-point line in the region semifinals. And then they left Claire Collins open, too, and she either hit 5 or 6. So of those 20, we had 23s in the region semifinals. Those two players hit 12 of them. So it wasn't just our big three. We had a lot of kids that everybody has a green light. That's the thing. So, in fact, they'll get in trouble if they don't shoot it most of the time.
You definitely like to take the shots. Just from me being around you, I believe I've known you, since 2007, Coach. I believe we've kind of ran into each other over the years, but it's been quite a while.
Yeah, it has, and it's just I guess when I got into the girls years ago and started at Danville, I kind of decided then girls basketball. And of course, it's come a long way since then. I mean, it's really evolved. But I thought I want to play a fast tempo. I want to really get up and down the floor. I want to pressure teams and make the girls' game a little bit funner to watch than what it is. Because on the boys' side, when I was coaching boys before that, I did miss the athleticism that boys have. So I thought, how can we change that? In terms of, so we thought, let's play fast and let's get after people and let's give everybody the green light. And because girls, if you don't, sometimes they lack confidence. So, I'd have to, if you miss 5 in a row, I was like, well, I don't care, shoot 5 more because you might make the next 5 and then you're 50%.
Yeah.
So that's just the philosophy we've taken, and the kids here at South have really bought into it. It is fun to play. It's hard to play because you got to be in phenomenal shape, and they'll tell you, the girls will tell you our conditioning, either Mercer or here, it's really, really hard. But to play that style, you got to be in great shape.
Yeah. Talk about being in great shape. How about the return of Allie Collette on the season, and then also with Rachel and Coach? It's almost like a miracle comeback with Allie, though. I mean, that was just simply amazing because we thought she was done for the season.
Yeah, we did too. And when she went down, and it was literally, that's usually what happens. We were like in the last 2 minutes of practice, and she went for a layup, and she kind of came down on her knee, but she landed directly on her knee. Well, she kind of, grabbed her knee or whatever, and then she was kind of teary, but says, hey, I think I'm good. So we go send her back to get ice, and so we kind of stopped practice, and I go back in the training room, and she's like, look, I'm good. So she gets up, and she walks out normal.
Yeah.
And I think, okay. So her dad called me that night and says, look, something's not right. Said, she's got a lot of swelling. She's having a hard time getting up down the steps. So we decided, let's go ahead and check this out now. So they got an appointment over at UK. And so they call me later, and they're devastated. And the doctor at UK basically says, you've got a partially torn PCL which the PCL is a different, most of the time it's the ACL and stuff. The PCL normally doesn't require surgery, and it's the only ligament that regenerates itself. It'll grow back over time.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently the doctor's going over all this with Allie and her dad, and Allie just stops him. It's like, okay, wait a second. When can I play again? And he was like, oh, honey, you need to forget about high school. Just, you're not playing again this year. This is a 4 or 5 month deal. And her dad said, and Allie told me her answer immediately was, I didn't get a chance to win a region. And so,
Wow.
yeah, that was her answer. So she was devastated. So she comes back to practice, and the kids knew it a little bit, so it was a pretty emotional day. Amara and Allie are like sisters. And so as soon as Allie walked in the gym, she was like, you want me to come? So, yeah, you got to come to practice. We need to get this out, and we'll talk about it. So when she gets there, Amara immediately stops and goes over, stops the drill. Just walks out of the drill. And of course, then it's the whole team's in tears. And so I was like, well, okay, practice is over. Let's head to the locker room. So we go to the locker room and we discuss things. And, we just tried to tell Allie that, that we loved her and that, we're going to do the best we can. And, and we told her, she's, let's put it in perspective. It could be a lot worse. There's a lot more people that are a lot worse off, and you've had a great career, and didn't make it any easier, but Allie's a great kid and handled it. And our kids were phenomenal the way they responded. And our locker room we had a real tight locker room anyway, and it just got tighter. And so what happens is, luckily, Coach Collins, she's signed at Western Kentucky University, and Coach Collins, the coach at Western, was basically like, well, okay, I get that, but I want her, she's playing for me, I want her to see my doctor. So, which is, understandable. So they get an appointment like the next week and go see her. And so Allie calls me, I'm at school, and she calls me and she's like, guess what? And I was like, what? And I wasn't even thinking about that. And she's like, I've got a second opinion. I'm going to be back. And I was like, what?
Wow.
And basically the doctor at Western says, this is not a 4 or 5 month deal. This is a 4 or 5 week deal. And basically you've already a week behind. Why haven't you been rehabbing? And so she immediately went to war on her knee, talked to the guys at the rehab at PT Pros who did a phenomenal job with her, told me they've never had a young lady work the way she worked to get back, and probably was ready in 2.5, 3 weeks. But we went ahead and set her out 4 to be sure. So I'm just thankful for Coach Collins at Western, because there's been a lot of college coaches, especially at the D1 level, that would say, well, honey, I don't want you to play. I don't want you to risk any further damage. But he knew what high school meant to her. And so he's like, honey, if you can get back, go play. I'm all for it. So I appreciate him, which I told Allie that just to me solidifies that you picked the right school to go to, that he really cares about you and all those things. So she hit the ground running as soon as she was released. I told her, I'll be honest with you, Allie's not afraid to voice her opinion. She gets that from her daddy. But I told her, I talked to her and said something about, why don't you, I'm just going to bring you back slow, and we'll play you 2 or 3 minutes a quarter, bring you off the bench. And she was like, wow. She's like, I'm released. If I'm released, why do I got to do that? And so, she convinced me. I was like, okay, this kid's been through the ringer. So we started her, and, my plan was to play her, like I said, a minute or 2 at a time. That first game against Hazard that she's back at, Hazard looked like, oh my gosh, I've played her 5 straight minutes. And so she just seemed to get better and better and better. And then with Rachel, Rachel was ruled ineligible because she came from Somerset, and that's a whole nother thing that I really won't get into. And so she had to sit out. Her last game played was February 17th or something like that in Somerset the year before. So she actually wrote the number of days on the board and would mark it off each day. 65 days to eligible, 64 days. She would mark it off every day, and she could still practice. You could play JV, but to her, you could tell it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
But had a great approach about it, a great attitude. For a young lady her age, it would have been easy to give up and say, I'm not doing this. It's too much, But when she came back, it was a game changer. Just for the fact of, here's a 6'2" kid that's in the post, and all of a sudden, not only do we have an inside presence, but now you've got to help off on her, and which leaves one of our shooters open. So our 3-pointers skyrocketed. when she became eligible just because she drew so much attention. It wasn't necessarily her stat line; it was just her presence on the floor. And then it helps us defensively. She was that rim protector that we didn't have. We had to shoot a bunch of threes to try to outscore you because we just didn't have the size and the bulk yet. My
Right.
inside kids were freshmen. So it was a pretty cool process the way all that worked. And the kids were just phenomenal. I had to ask Emily Cox, one of my freshmen who had been starting, say, look, I'm going to start Rachel. This is something I need you to do. And she, basically said, Coach, I got you. I understand completely. And, a lot of teams would have collapsed right there. And our team just got stronger. And it's kids like her. I had asked Clara Collins early in the year when Allie came back, look, I'm going to take you out of the lineup. I'm going to put Allie back in. And it's like, no questions asked, Coach. That's, we got it. We're ready for this run. And so they truly loved each other, enjoyed playing with each other. So that's hard to top. And when you have that as a team, and I kept telling them when I got here that the key at Mercer was those kids were player led, not coach led.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kept trying to get to that. Say, look, you got to be, for us to make a run, you got to be player led and not coach led. And one of the kids I give really big key to that was Amara. Amara, when Allie got hurt, Amara just to me went to a different level. Her attitude, she always had a good attitude. She's one of the more competitive kids I've ever coached in my life.
I, I, I was actually going to ask you about Amara because when Allie went down, I mean, like you said, Amara stepped up, and here she is now, 19.7 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, and then you mentioned Rachel. Rachel did in her games back, it was 12 points per game. And then Sydney Hall is another one that we should touch on too, Coach. And I'll let you keep talking, but I just wanted to point that out that Amara Steele, 19.7 points per game and 8 rebounds per game for you.
Yeah, Amara is a gamer, and she loves the game. Her and Allie and Sid, people don't realize they're good players. They don't have a clue the amount of hours that those kids put in the gym with other trainers, personal trainers, and those kids at Mercer did the same thing. People don't realize that. You don't get good by, you got some talent, but, my daughter, when she played for me way back, her favorite quote was, I used to say it all the time, and she kind of combined two, was, hard work trumps talent. That was always what she said, because she wasn't the most talented, so that was her favorite quote, it's hard work trumps talent. So I kind of built on that at Mercer and here, and it's like, well, how about we do both? How about the hard work and the talent, collide? And when they do that, you've got a special team. So we hit that at Mercer. Nobody ever outworked us. Off the court, on the court, in the classroom. And then at South, I didn't get there till last November. So that's a hard thing to instill. Not knocking the other coaches were there, but it's just a different philosophy. Mm-hmm. So, and I told them, the better you get, the harder we work. So, and there were some days in that gym that I know there were some girls, Mercer went through it in South that think, I can't do this. I know there was days in conditioning. There was kids that just said, I'm not sure I can do this. But, when you've got the leaders like Allie and Mary and Sid probably doesn't say 20 words. But when she does, you better listen. And, when Allie got hurt, Sid's first game, she hit like 8 threes in the first half against Whitley County. And, somebody said, number record at South in the game was 10 threes. I said, well, she won't do it in the second half. And they said, why? I said, it's not the kind of kid she is. I said, she's got her. She's going to defer now. And I knew we were in really good shape when we're in the region finals against North Laurel. And it's a pretty intense game. And they're zoning us, and I put Sid in the middle of the zone, even though she's small, but she sees the floor, she passes. And so we get the ball in the middle, and she keeps dumping it down to Rachel. And I call her, I was like, Sid, honey, just shoot the ball. And like I said, she doesn't say much when she did. I said, no, Coach. I was like, what? She said, no. She said, I got to get Rachel. We got to get Rachel involved. The ball is going to Rachel. I was like, okay, your call. So when those are special things. That's what I'm talking about. Those are player-led things that happen. And back to Amara, I just felt like Amara kind of took over our team. I saw her in practice huddling the team up and doing different things that it's like a light came on with those kids. But they had been through so much adversity. Last year was devastating the way we lost, and that kind of drove them too. And everything that happened during the course of the year, those kids, instead of separating, they got stronger. and locker room got tighter and tighter. And I'm a big believer in that stuff helps.
Yeah, Rachel. Honestly, I mean, when you think back at the season, as she came in and starting to get involved with your team, gave you that center. She was almost like your Emma Souder, there for Mercer County, giving you that difference, that big playmaker that you needed, Coach.
Yes, she does, and that's the thing is that and Rachel doesn't have a clue how good she could be, and she's just now touching the surface of how good she's going to be, and hopefully in the next few years we'll get back to Rupp and people will see it's like, oh my gosh, this girl is a beast, and but that inside presence, she's strong, she's physical, she's unselfish, and she's got a knack. A lot of kids, a lot of post players, even at the college level, when the ball goes in the paint, they don't know if they get double teamed, and she got double teamed a lot. She knew exactly where the double team was coming from. So and that's not something I taught her. I Coach Bowling at Somerset with her former coach. Maybe that's something he taught her, but man, it's phenomenal that she knew exactly where the double team, and she'd always kick it out to the open person. So, and we tell our kids that's the easiest three to hit. The one from inside out is the easiest one because most of the time you're wide open. So very unselfish. She didn't come in, being out all that time and demand things. She just, we just told her, be yourself, let the game come to you. She was super nervous, and she told me before her first game, when she was eligible, she came in, her and her dad, and basically was kind of in tears and said, "I'm nervous." I was like, "Nervous about what? You've played in games before." She was nervous that she was going to mess the team up,
Yeah.
and but what she didn't realize is the rest of the team could not wait for her to get there because the way she was in the locker room, the way she is with everybody. And they knew, our kids knew that for us to make a deep run, we got to have Rachel. We need her. And so once she got going, she was fine. And she also told me in the district championship she was nervous, thought she was going to throw up from being nervous. But she got over all that, and then just teams seemed to get better and better. So that's why I think that the sky's the limit for that young lady.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, your whole team this year, Coach. 2,377 points scored. You only gave up 1,786, and I mean, just a phenomenal season. Who's your biggest rivalry in your district? You're out of the 50th district, it looks like, Coach, in 13th region.
Right. Well, the district. And I told them when we came in, when I took that job, is that one of the things that you got to do if you want to make a run, and our ultimate goal, and I told them is that, this is hard for everybody, and it won't be for everybody, but your ultimate goal has to be is a state champion. And, and if you don't think you can do that, then you're not, you're probably going to have a hard time playing in this program.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we tell them that you got to own your district. And so, probably moving forward, our biggest competitor is going to be Whitley County, and it's Whitley's got some good young kids, and that's who we've played in the district championship the last 2 years. And Sean Pigman is the head coach at Whitley, and a lot of people don't know, a lot do, but Sean was my assistant at Mercer. Sean's like a brother to me. We were next door neighbors, so we're going to have some competitive battles over the years. He knows exactly what I'm doing. We can call plays, and he calls my plays, I call his. So it's a good thing. The night before we played in the district finals, we were on the phone for over an hour with each other. So, but that'll be probably our big competition moving forward.
So your overall record as a coach. Now, I know you said that player led. And I believe that to an extent, but I mean, come on, Coach. Look at these numbers that you've compiled up. 570 wins, only 279 losses, but again, 570 wins. And I remember how when you first I talked about us knowing each other since 2007. Mercer County was not always at that top because there were some seasons where East Jessamine or West Jessamine won the district, but then you went on a 10-year winning streak winning the district, and I mean, goodness, 6 regional championships.
Yeah, and that's like I said, I mean it's, and I hear what you're saying, but you've also got to have good players, and you got to have good help. You got to have good parents. You got to have good administration. You got to have, and I look at those when I'm taking a job, and and of course I'll correct you a little bit. I'm 570-0. My assistants got all the 200 losses. Pigman, Coach Edwards, all these guys get my losses, so I'm undefeated. Um, but no, I mean I've had great players, and like I said, it's got to be to have a great program. You got to have all those things. You got to have the great players. I'm only as good as my staff. I'm only as good as the administration at Mercer was phenomenal. The administration here at South Laurel is phenomenal, and the parents are phenomenal. When we talk to our parents, and I have parent meetings every year, and I'm honest, and I'm tell them the way that I want things to go, and I don't discuss playing time, I don't discuss strategy, and I'm not going to discuss somebody else's kid. And I tell them, I'm the bad cop. And so I'm going to tell them, I'm going to point out everything they're doing wrong and all those kind of things. So when a kid comes home upset and struggling, be the encourager. Say, hey, just keep working, do what he asks you to do. And I've been fortunate at Mercer and here at South, parents have bought into that and they let the kids, I tell them it's part of being responsible. If they have an issue, let them come to me. It's part of growing up and we'll handle it. And if we can't, then we'll call you in. You got to have total buy-in, and that's what we tell them. It's an all-in deal, and it can't just be the players and coaches. You got to have all that, and I like to address it early. And I'm not going to always make everybody happy. That's part of it, but and I tell kids, parents are going to get upset at me. Even in the state championship teams, parents are upset, but I tell those kids get worried sometimes. It's like, well, your parent doesn't play for me, you do. So. Yeah. That's what I'm here for. But I was a parent too. My daughter played, my son played. So I know that feeling, when you think maybe, hey, my son should be playing more. But we as a family decided that's part of growing up. If you've got a problem, you need to handle it. That's just the way we taught our kids. And I'm not going to go against anything I always told my players with my own kids. So I know how hard it can be as a parent. Every parent wants their kid to play. But I've just been fortunate here and blessed, and everywhere I've been that I have good parents, good players, good everything, and to make it a positive experience. And I want, when I'm done with the season, you can't win the state tournament every year, you can't win a region every year, but I want them to look back collectively as a whole from start to finish, from summer ball to all that stuff. And every day's not fun, and there's bad days, but I want to look back as a player and say, you know what, I had fun. That was fun. And winning is fun, don't get me wrong. But we also tell them is that enjoy the process. The destination will take care of itself. So enjoy this whole process because it'll be over before you know it. So we try to get our kids to, as hard as I am and demanding as I am, I also want them to have fun.
Let me ask you this, Coach. KHSA, they canceled it, the event as far as Ticketmaster is concerned, but there's still that small thread. Does that weigh on your mind still that, hey, there's still a small piece of hope that we might get to play that the rest of the Sweet 16?
It does. And, part of me thinks, okay, that's a good thread to hang on to. And then part of me thinks, God, I wish they would just tell me.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping by them holding on, thinking, well, hey, let's try to work this out. They know what it means to everybody, the boys and the girls, and our kids are chomping at the bit. Amara still texts me about every other day. Hey, have you heard anything? Have you heard anything? So those kids are. We've got a group text, with everybody. So when that initial thing that I kind of was the bearer of bad news when I think the Lexington Herald put out that it was canceled.
Yeah.
And then I sent it to my players, and then immediately, it didn't go over very well. And then my son, who's on there, who's in Richmond, he sends me a text. He sends a text like, "Hold on," And then Tackett puts one out, say it's postponed, not canceled. So then, it was all thank you, Connor, thank you, Connor. Everybody's hanging on by a thread, but that's okay if that's all we have to hang on to, and if it works out, we don't care when it is, where it is. These kids, if they said, hey, tomorrow we've got to show up and we're going to play, they'd say, what time's the bus leave? I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Obviously school's closed to April 20th right now. The governor has shut down all the businesses. So hopefully, we can get past this curve that they're talking about with this whole virus epidemic thing. But But maybe, and I have maybe I have false hope, but maybe Coach, that we can have a little May Madness. Is May okay?
May is okay. June's okay. May would be great. I did hear the president tonight. He got criticized a lot, saying that he wants to open everything up by Easter.
Yeah.
That's what he wants to do, and I hope hope that does. But yeah, May Madness would be great. We'd be all for it. Maybe then if we get back to school April 20th, we'd have a week or two to practice, and and I know it would fire kids up. And you know what? From the KHSA perspective, if everything's clear and it's a go, I think attendance might skyrocket. Especially the ones finishing up, and then people have been cooped up for a month, and then the fact of getting a chance to actually play that would be really cool. And I know if they can do it, they're going to do it. Because I know what the Sweet 16 means to the state of Kentucky, and I also know what it means to KHSAA.
Yeah, and it means a lot to them. I mean, we were talking, there, during the press conference, not talking, but as I'm listening to the press conference that was happening, underneath the rafters there at Rupp Arena, Commissioner Tackett said that this is truly $1 million loss for the KHSAA. That couldn't have been an easy decision at all.
No, and I'm sure they wanted to try to, because, man, you're right. And then that's one of those deals that, that cuts into you next year, especially if they don't get any help or any relief. I mean, they may have to cut programs. You just don't know what they got to cut to make up that loss. And, who knows, people may lose jobs. You don't know how it, affects all that. So I'm sure if there's any glimmer of hope to be able to play that, hopefully they'll try to work that out. And, but then I also think of, I was a baseball guy. I coached baseball, played college baseball. Now I think of those guys in the spring sports that didn't get anything. And so how does that affect that? I've got 2 or 3 that play softball. How does that, I don't want them to say you got to miss softball practice if you're going to get a 10 to 15 game window to come practice for us. I mean, I'm sure they would, but that puts a lot of stress on that softball and baseball coach as well.
Yeah, because you got obviously baseball and softball seasons here now, and those guys as of right now, game number 1 started on 7 days ago. I'm sorry. So that season should have already started. The Sweet 16 should have wrapped up for the boys this past Sunday.
Yeah, it's hard to fathom that. I grew up going to state tournament. Back when I was in school, they closed school on Thursdays and Fridays, during the boys' state tournament, and as a kid, I remember my dad owned a sporting goods store, and so I always used to go with him. And then when I got older as a teenager, a bunch of us guys of course, I lived in Harrisburg, so we'd pack up and go. And sometimes it was even in Louisville. So we would go there too. I mean, we look forward to that, of being off on that, Thursday and Friday of school and heading out to the state tournament. We would buy tickets, and of course, you know how it is as a teenager. We'd buy an upper arena ticket and then find the seat and get kicked out of a seat about 10 times a game. but we always look forward to that. I mean, that was something as a teenager growing up that was a great time of year.
Just got to go to the Sweet 16, and everybody talks about the ice cream too. It's always good to have ice cream there at Rupp Arena as well. So,
Allie Collett and I argue over the ice cream. She says Western's ice cream is better. So we actually had that argument the first day we got to Rupp. She says Rupp's is good, but Western's is real. I was like, what do you mean it's real? So I guess it's dipped out. They got it in the bucket and they dip it out. So we had that argument. So I still say Rupp's is better.
Yeah, I think Rupp's got that classic taste to it. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And I've had it at Western. It is good, and I'm not knocking them. But when I went with Allie to watch a game, she got some kind of blue ice cream. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was. I can't remember. So Moose Tracks or something. I don't know. Surf. I don't know. It was blue.
Up at Northern Kentucky, I remember they had Dippin' Dots. So everybody's got their own different ice cream flavor, it seems like. So again, this year's team, all the different things that all the adversity that you've had to overcome, and then you play against Sacred Heart. you know, not only winning your regional championship, the 13th region championship, but then you go to Rupp, you defeat the number one team in the state. If it all ended, Coach, like it is now, are you happy with that? I mean, obviously you want to go after that championship, but if it doesn't play
Well,
out that way,
if it doesn't play out that way, the only way we're going to go is we're going to be happy about it because we ended the season with a win. We set a school record with wins. We got over that hump of getting out of the regional tournament. And then when you get to the state tournament, you're playing the big school from Louisville, who everybody says it's theirs to lose, and they're the number one team in the state, and we're considered the mountain team, the 606 team, and they don't hardly ever do anything. The style of basketball they play. So, I just couldn't have been prouder of a team the way they represented themselves, and they didn't back down from a second, and and I knew our kids going in. Emmy Souder had actually texted me night before and says, "Hey, are the girls nervous?" I was like, "No, they're not nervous." And she's like, "What?" And I was like, "No, this bunch doesn't do that. They just don't. They're loose. They were just excited to play." And we talked about that level playing field in terms of the emotion. Don't get too high or too low, because if you get too high, it'll burn off. We jumped on Sacred Heart. Now, I kind of ran through in my head. I was like, "Oh my gosh, we've gotten too emotional here. We kind of," and then they made a run and kind of took the lead. But then our kids came out at halftime. We're down 3, and we tell our kids every game, whether we're up or down, these first 2 or 3 minutes of the third quarter are going to set the tone the rest of the game. And so you can't come out here and get down 7 or 8. So when those kids went out there and, we went on that run, I think we had 5 threes in the third quarter. I knew then we were going to be hard to beat.
yeah,
And, and even then, so, we'll be happy about it. We're not going to be, because it's not something we can control. If it was something we could control, I'd be upset. And this is not just a state thing or a Lexington thing. This is a worldwide thing that we're dealing with. So, it's just another thing that, we tell our kids all that adversity, those are life things. And after North Laurel beat us last year in the region semifinals, it was devastating. That's the most devastating locker room I've ever been in my life. And I've been in, like I said, you don't win the region every year and you don't win the state every year. So you got those locker rooms when you lose for the last time. And what do you say and how do you say it and those things that, we're there in Corbin at the arena, and, I couldn't even talk because they were so devastated. And so we just loaded up the bus and went back to London. And I said, get yourselves together and we'll talk there. And, and that's the thing that we kind of told each other that night is that, don't forget this feeling, and let's do everything humanly possible to not let this happen again. And I said, you can even do everything humanly possible and it's still not be enough, because that's just life. That's the way it is, and that's the way it goes. But let's make sure it's in our control of what happens. So once again, I know the kids had listened. Allie, before we go out for the regional championship, Allie asked if she could speak to the team. And we said, sure. So, and that's basically what she said, is that all this adversity, all these things that were out of her control that we couldn't do much about, but this game right here is in our control. We can do something about this. So it just made me feel good. It kind of gave me cold chills, the fact of they've been listening and they've been buying in. And, so they got to that stage again, and, they made it happen in terms of sticking together. And that's what I told them a lot of times when there's storms in the game. That's what I tell them. There's storms in the game. There's storms in your season. You got to weather them, and you got to get tighter. A lot of teams, that when there's storms, they divide. They'll get cliquish with each other. They start talking. Our team did not. The more storms, the tighter they got. So they figured out that that's the best way to weather those, and that would be together. And so it was just, it was one of the more gratifying experiences as a coach, not only with the win, but the way those kids handled themselves and through all the adversity. And they just represented what was on the front of their jersey, the community of London, Laurel County. It was just phenomenal how they represented themselves. And there was a picture that somebody put out there, and this sums up the way our kids are. We just win biggest game they've ever won in their lives. One of the biggest in South Laurel history, if not the biggest. Yeah. And you look over, and our kids are picking up trash under the bench. They could have been running back to the tunnel, but because they didn't have a clue that was suspended. So there's 4 or 5 of them, Allie included. Allie and I don't know who else was over there. Rachel was over there. They're over there cleaning up the bench. So that just tells you the caliber of kids we got, and proud to be their coach of what they represent.
Coach, I've got a special treat for some of the folks out there that want to see some of these highlights from that game at Rupp Arena. So if you don't mind, maybe are you able to see it on your end if I put it on there? Or you're able to see your picture right now, right?
Yeah, I can see it. And here, when you get to those after those highlights, my whole team is like there's one big FaceTime thing. They want me to turn the camera around here in a minute so you can see some of them.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. Hold on, just one second. I'm gonna play some of these highlights, and Coach, if you want to talk over some of them, so you can kind of describe who's hitting the shots, that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Amara, and she's Amara's one of those that she just was locked in. Look how deep that is.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's one of those like, what are you doing? And it's like, oh gosh, she's locked in. She's she has no conscience, and then Sydney Hall. Sydney Hall's probably got the purest form of a girl shooter that I've ever seen. I mean, it's picture perfect. And for somebody to shoot 46% from the 3-point line and has made 90-something threes, she finished 47th in the country and made 3-pointers and percentage. It's just phenomenal.
This is the Sacred Heart young lady that hit a layup here. I promised the kids to say that I would have a couple Sacred Heart highlights on here so that it wouldn't be offset. So there's a couple on there. But who's this that just hit the jumper there for you?
That was a on the pull up right there. Her mid-range game's pretty good too. She can pull up on a dime.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, Eastern, in my opinion, is getting a steal with that young lady.
This whole reel right here has actually got some Sacred Heart and South Laurel highlights in this one. So hopefully, I was hoping to see the one from Allie Collette, that little scoop shot. You remember that, Coach?
Yeah, I remember it, and she's probably saying, "Take that, Coach Souder," because I would get on her in games like, "Stop shooting that scoop layup." So she's probably, she'll probably tell me, "I told you, Coach Souder." So, but Sacred Heart was Aaron Toller, going to UK. I mean, and then the Clemens kid is going to play college volleyball. She could play college basketball. And I'll tell you what, that number 4, I can't remember her name. Golly. She is cat quick and just a lockdown defender. So, it's not like we beat a pretty formidable team. And, and I said it before we even won the region that people asked me about that. And I wouldn't talk a whole lot till we won the region, is that, coming into that, Sacred Heart was by far the best team we had played all year. It wasn't even close. So we knew what we were up against.
I'm gonna kind of filter as I'll switch back and forth between you and the highlights here as I see some more of your players get involved here on these highlights. So here's another 3.
That's Rachel Presley. Look at that.
That's Rachel Presley hitting that 3.
2 for 2 on the year.
There's one of them.
Yeah, but we had told her, like I said, in practice that the day before, you're going to have to shoot. And my son actually picked up that Clemens sits in the paint. So we basically said, you might have to shoot a couple. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, just, if you can knock one down. And then, she hit 2, which is pretty phenomenal. So, and like I said, that's a game changer. When she can do that, you got to change your defense, and then it opens up, and we got kids that can get to the rim. And so then it's like it changes the game because you think, okay, how are we going to guard them now? And it's hard to zone us because we do have so many good shooters. And then we were able to spread the floor against teams man-to-man because of Rachel. And so nothing really fancy we did offensively. We played off her. Coach Edwards, my assistant, was basically say, hey, let's pull her high in the second half and use her as a screen. And she basically agreed. And that's another thing, too, this team, is that they're not shy on voicing their opinion. Like I said, they're trying to FaceTime me right now, and I'll show that here in a minute. But we had a timeout late in the game, and my staff's up there. And, in the state tournament, your timeout's a little bit longer, so you got time. And, I look at my son and, Coach Edwards and Coach Oliver standing there, and I was like, all right, guys, what do we want to do defensively? It starts getting a little tight, those things. And, Connor's like, Dad, staying at 3-2. And Coach Edwards like, I don't know, man. I think I'd go man. And, so they don't get any open looks. And but then he looks at Connor and says, but, 3-2's been working all night. So I look at them both. I was like, okay, now look at Courtney. That's my freshman coach, and she's like, hey, that's what y'all get paid the big dollars for. You all make that decision.
Who
And so,
who is this that takes the charge right here? It just caught my eye here, Coach. Who's this?
that's Bree Howard. That's the spark plug of our team right there. In fact, we had talked about going a diamond in one. And I was like, all right, if we go diamond in one, I was like, we're going to chase Toller. And I told Bree, I was like, Bree, if we go diamond in one, you're the one chasing. And I said, why would I have you chasing? Because you're not our best defender. And she said, because I flop the best. So she took 2 charges in that game, fearless. I don't know how many charges she took on the year. So she's another important part of our team that kind of gets overlooked because of our big three. But just probably the hardest nosed kid on our team, and one of the hardest nosed kids I've ever coached. Loves the game, and her and Rachel are the TikTok queens too. So, have you seen the movie Twins? Haven't you?
I have, yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, that's Rachel and Bree. That's Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
Of course, they've never seen the movie, but I've told them they need to watch it. That's them too. They're inseparable.
This is awesome. I'm still looking at some of these highlights. I'm trying to find the Allie Collette, the little dipsy do that she did there with that under. I mean, it was just a fantastic shot. And do you remember? Do you remember what part of the game that was in?
It was in the. I can't. Was it on our end? Was it the second half? Was it down there by our bench? I remember hitting it because
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, she did that in the regional finals too and got an and one. I think that's where I'm thinking the and one. She got fouled in the region, but no, she has it down. She's done it for years. So, like I said, she proved me wrong on that one. That if she'd shot it the other way, she'd probably gotten it blocked.
Yeah.
Just those plays. Like I said, I haven't gone back and watched the home game. A lot of the girls have. I'll do that to check out some of that stuff. And just like when I won the state tournaments at Mercer, I've got all those games, and I'll go back every now and then and watch those. And these girls won't either. I tell the kids at Mercer, you won't really appreciate what you've done until you get a little bit older. It's like, wow, look what we were able to accomplish and overcome all these obstacles. And and hopefully we don't have an asterisk beside it because we didn't get to finish it. Pretty cool.
Yeah. So you got that? You want to show us that FaceTime? Is that what you want to show us?
Yeah. Girls, call me back here. They've called me back 15 times. They'll call me here in just a second.
I'm still trying to scan that. 32, the 32 for you, Coach. Again, who's that? Who's 32?
Rachel Presley.
Okay, yeah. So she's diving on the floor for balls and everything, man. She was playing top-notch basketball that game. And who hit that free throw for you there that ended up being the game-winning point?
That was Clara Collins. She's a freshman. Here they are right here. I don't know if you look at them.
Scoot it over just a tad more towards. There you go. Hey, everybody. That is social distancing at its finest.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they never have a dull moment. I'm telling you. It's a wonder they didn't do a TikTok on here for you.
TikTok, that's great. I got that seems to be popular with everybody, the TikToks. I need to make a PrepSpin TikTok, I think.
Yeah, they convinced my wife and I to do one. I've done one. They begged me with the team. They said if we won the region that me and Coach Edwards would have to do a TikTok, and so I did one with my wife here during all this quarantine stuff. Coach Edwards has yet to do one, so he's on the hook for one. But these girls, trust me, they'll never let him live it down.
I'm still trying to find, man. I tell you what, dude, I'm gonna be upset with myself if I can't find this Allie Collette shot because it was just amazing, just amazing.
Yeah, oh yeah. I saw it when we first came on. When you first showed it, it was on there.
Oh, was it in? It was in the beginning then.
Yeah, it probably was because I saw her do it. Yeah, you showed it.
Gotcha. So let me go back here. I tell you what, I'm gonna try to bring this in real quick again, and trying to get this on there. How's Netflix going for you, Coach? Have you watched any good movies?
Yeah, I've of course in all this time, the one I'm on right now is All American. It's about the football player that went from Crenshaw High School to Beverly Hills High School. Um, so I'm just about finished with season one. It's actually pretty good. But I've watched some other stuff. I just got through with Prison Break. I loved Prison Break. I had never watched it. My son kept telling me, said, "Dad, you'll love it." So that was a good one. Of course, I loved the Stranger Things. I liked all those. And Yellowstone was really good. Ozarks.
Stranger Things kind of took you
Breaking
back to the
Bad.
'80s, didn't it?
Oh yeah. The music was good. On those, and it kind of reminds me of a modern day Goonies,
Yeah.
a little bit. So I love all those things, and so we've got nothing but time here to watch all those things. And I'm not a huge reader. My daughter's a teacher in Frankfurt. She teaches middle school, and I bet she read more books this summer than I've read my whole life. Um, but I did read a good book right before the tournament. It was called "Lead for God's Sake." Actually, my pastor in Harrodsburg recommended it. I had kind of talked to him some of the adversity we're going through, so it was actually a really good book
Yeah.
about the way you should lead your team, and some of it's a slap in the face too. The things you're doing. So I shared some of that with our team. The little things like that. I'm always looking for little things like that, whether it be a little quick hitter play or some little motivational thing. And so I think Allie texted me and said it's in the first half.
All right, I've actually got it queued up here, so let's see if we can pull that up. Was it? Do you remember? Is that the only scoop shot she hit, or was there a different? Or was there two of them?
Hit two in that game.
Here's one of them.
Collette turns it right off the Presley screen. Takes it to the right block to the baseline with a scoop.
Oh,
and
my
score.
goodness.
Collette turns
That
it
wasn't
right off
the and
Presley
one.
Screen. Takes it to the right block to the baseline with a scoop. And
Oh,
score.
It could have been an and one.
So there's one of them there, and let's see if we can. This was Sacred Heart. I'll keep looking here as I'm playing this, and then we'll try to get that on there. So did you notice that some of the movies that were out in theaters, Coach? Did you notice that they're starting to show up on like the Roku TVs and the Amazon Primes and all that, so you can actually watch those at home during this virus thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually got our TV is called, it's a different thing. It's called IPTV. There's a guy down here in London, Josh Maxey, hooked me up with it. And it's either I can do live TV, so I can watch all the local stuff, or I can get movies or series, and their movies are pretty up to date. Now, some of these movies that are just out, there's a basketball movie out, and I can't think of the name of it, the Way Back or something like that.
Ben Affleck's in it.
Yes, we were actually going to go take our team to watch that at the state tournament, but there's a lot of. I haven't seen any movies lately. I've been more on the series end. Hoosiers is my all-time favorite movie, and of course, we went to Florida, and that's the word here in a minute. But we went. We took a charter, and so our bus driver, we brought some movies, and. So the first movie we watched was Hoosiers. It's like, oh man, this is great. So we stopped to go to the bathroom or something. And I hear the girl say, "That is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life." So they just don't understand good movies, and I don't know how you can not like Hoosiers.
They're probably more of a like Coach Carter type of movie, I would guess, right?
I don't even know if they like that. But so I was just, I almost made them watch it again. Yeah, they're, I don't know, and that's another thing too. They're this bunch is our clowns in terms of having fun all the time, and they're texting me like crazy right now, and we had they asked me if you'd ever heard of this call. We're in a freshman game, and asked me if you ever heard this. And we're going up. I think it's a freshman tournament. We're going up for a layup. Girl slides over and takes what you think is a charge. So one ref calls a charge, the other one calls a block. So we're thinking, okay, they're huddled up, and he comes back, and the ref says, "What we have here is a blarge." Now, I thought he was joking. I said, "A blarge," and he said, "Yes, sir." So I said, "What is a blarge?" And he said, "Look it up." So I did. I Googled it. It's when basically they can't decide which one it is, a block or a charge. So it's a blarge, and I think it's point of interruption after that. So I was totally floored. I had never heard that in all my years.
So is it like a jump ball, or how do they do that?
I think it was point of interruption. Whoever had the ball, I think. It might have been alternate possession. I'm not sure. But when he came over there, I started laughing. I said, "Oh, he's just playing." And he looked at me and said, "No, I'm not." That's some of those things. And that's the girls are trying to get me. They gave me we had a code word that they're trying to get me to say. And if I say it, if I don't say it, they get ice cream whenever all this quarantine is over. Of course, they say I never pay when we get ice cream on half-court shots and stuff. But if I say it, which blarge is one of the words, if I say it, then we've got this one conditioning thing. It's actually called a rup runner. It was called something else, and Bree renamed it to the rup runner. It's pretty brutal. So that's one of the words that I had to say. Of course, they were trying to get me to say all these different things, all these different lines, and all this kind of stuff. So that's kind of the way they are all the time. So they're saying blarge is not the word, but it is the word. That was the word that we came up with. The other one was, it was about. I think they wanted me to curl my hair with a curling iron. And then they wanted me on air to admit that my wife was sexy. And so, there it is. Rachel is always asking me that if Carmen is sexy. So there you go. You guys are on the hook for some running. We also used to do this in the state tournament. Stacy Pendleton and I, he's assumptions coach. When he was at Manual, he would say, "Souder, I'm going to go in a press conference. Give me a word." I was like, "What?" He said, "Give me a word, and then we'll bet a Coke that I'll say that word during the press conference." So, that's what I tried to do with them. And of course, they were coming up with everything under the sun to get me to say. And one of them was too. I thought they would come up with this one. The dialect down here is a little bit different. You would think that only being an hour down the road, it wouldn't be that different. But we were in Florida, and we're eating it at I think it just at Applebee's or Chili's or somewhere. And so one of our freshmen, Emily Mills, is sitting right next to me. And the waitress comes up and says, "Honey, what do you want to drink?" And she says, "I want a Sprite."
Sprite.
And the Sprite. So the waitress actually stopped and did a double take and looked at me. And I was like, "Ma'am, she wants a Sprite." So it's right. It's amazing the different dialect. And they make fun of me because the way I say Florida, I say Florida. And I tell them I think that's the way that Floridians say it, is they say Florida. So I got one word I say that they get on me. Theirs is a whole language. So, but there you go. I think they're going to have to do a bunch of running.
All right, so Coach, I think we talked pretty much about everything here except for putting you on the hot seat. Can we do that?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I'm gonna give you some choices here. Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
All right, Mingy or the other brand? Talking beef
Mingy.
jerky. That's a good answer, Coach. Hot or mild?
Mild.
All right, Gold Star or Skyline?
Probably Skyline.
All right, Chevy or Ford?
Chevy.
All right, Facebook or Twitter?
Twitter.
Windows or Mac?
Windows.
City or country?
City. Take that, girls.
Yeah, and ain't no Sprites in the city.
That's exactly right.
Hey, I was going to tell you, I got more of these questions here, though, for you, Coach. But I was asked once what was the difference between a Dr. Pepper and a Mr. Pibb, and I finally figured it out. It is Mr. Pibb just doesn't have all the education that Dr. Pepper has.
That's pretty good.
Doesn't have it.
There you go.
But it's the same thing pretty much, right?
There
All right.
you go.
Spider-Man or Superman?
Spider-Man.
All right. Cash or card?
Cash.
Fish or hunt?
Fish.
All right. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
eBay or Amazon?
Amazon. That's my wife.
National League or American League?
Oh, National League. Cincinnati Reds.
All right. I'm a big Cubs fan, but, Reds are loaded this year. Hopefully they get to play, too, because they got a
That's what's going to happen, though. They're loaded, and they'll get season.
Exactly, right? All right.
Yeah.
Newspaper or online news?
I used to think newspaper, but more online now.
Yeah. White or wheat bread?
Wheat.
All right, and the girls won't know nothing about this, but you and your wife and I certainly would. Columbo or Monk?
Columbo.
All right, and the most important question out of all these questions here, Charmin or Angel Soft?
Oh, no doubt. Angel Soft. It's not even close. Angel Soft.
Coach, I'm going to steal a line from Andrew Carlson, who told me this earlier, and he said anything that's available.
At this point, yes.
Awesome. I got a couple more highlights here that we'll show. This one is... Who's
That's
this?
Amara. Yep.
Amara?
That's
Okay.
Amara.
I need to get those. I should have wrote those jersey numbers down because you know how when we were broadcasting a game, that's how we recognize the players most of the time.
Yeah.
That was a Sacred Heart 3 there. I'm going to come back to you real quick and try to get to the next one. That's awesome, man. The hot seat, I'll definitely clip that out. We'll make a tweet out of that. And then, of course, what we've always talked about here tonight, too, that'll all be on demand, too, so you can go back and watch it if you got time, Coach, and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I got to the, let's see, where did we get to? The 45-second mark here, and I'm still looking for that and one of Allie. Allie,
My assistant, look and see, my assistant texted me, one of them did. It may not be then. He said, want to know if it's at the 419 mark.
At the 419 mark.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's in the first half or he just sent that to me.
Okay.
The girls are tweeting, what the heck is Columbo?
Hey, I actually been binge watching that. They talk about binge watching some of that stuff. So, not blodging it, but binge watching it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so I subscribed to that YouTube TV, and it's got like that unlimited DVR thing on it. So I've been able to catch a lot of those that they've been playing.
Well,
so
my wife's into all that Bachelor and all that stuff, so I don't always get the TV. So she likes Bachelor, Bachelorette, and I'm not a big fan.
I got another charge here for you that we can comment on. Who took this one for you?
Same one, Bree. That one.
Look at that. She's pumped up, man. She is pumped up.
She's pretty pumped. Yeah.
We didn't want to show that one, but hey, one thing that we didn't.
No scoops.
One thing that we didn't touch on was, Allie and also Amara both have an opportunity for Miss Basketball. Coach.
Yeah, that is so cool. We're the only team in the state of Kentucky that has two player of the years, co-player of the years from the same team. That's another thing, too, that we felt like really helped our team because, Allie missed 8 or 9 games, whatever she missed, 8, I think. And then, Amara really stepped her game up. She was good anyway, but really went to another level. So the fact that they both got it and they're both have a chance to win Miss Basketball, and I'll that was pretty cool. And it really, another thing that kind of propelled our team, the way they handled it. And I told them too, is that we had a third senior, and I told them, I said, I know they would never do this. It's rare they do too, but, you got Sydney Hall, who really stepped her game up too. And, but Sydney's the kind of player is that she immediately went up and hugged those two and, told them how awesome it was. So you knew then that our team had a chance of being really special when they react to those things that way because, you're kind of sharing the limelight and all those kind of things. But, how cool is that? Two kids from the same school, that's almost unheard of, have a chance to win that. Whether they do or not, it doesn't matter. It's just, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, the same school, that is a rarity. I've seen them in the same region before, have two of them, but never have I seen it in the same school. That's pretty amazing. That just is a testament to, how big time Amara had stepped up during the season when Allie was out.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, I texted Coach Williams at Eastern, and after the state tournament, which I had talked to her several times, and I was like, let me tell you something. In my opinion, you just stole that young lady right there. She is. People have no idea how hard she works and how good a player she is. And loves the game. So there's a lot of teams, and she'll take the approach in college and she wants to stay close to home. So Eastern's a good fit for her and all those kind of things. But there's a lot of Division I schools that missed the boat on Amara. But she's the kind of kid that she'll make them pay, and she'll be a great college player, and as is Allie, and then Sydney's going to Lindsey Wilson, Allie's going to Western Kentucky University, and they're a great program, and then Sydney's another one. Sydney had committed to Eastern, and then when they made the coaching change. It wasn't a good fit for her, which, we told her, don't worry about it. You're getting your education paid. And she really liked Lindsey Wilson, and, that's a good fit for her. And I had another one of my kids at Mercer play at Lindsey that set the all-time three-point record at Lindsey Wilson, Hottie Huffman. And Sid, I'll be shocked if she doesn't break that. So, all just good fits for those kids. And that's what it's about. It's not about the level, in my opinion, it's about the fit. Where do you feel comfortable at? And like I said, with Allie, the way Western handled her knee was a great fit. And for Sydney at Lindsey Wilson, Coach Wethington's been a good friend of mine for 20 plus years, so I know. And she said, I just felt comfortable there. And then with Amara, the coaching change there, and Coach Williams did a great job at Eastern, big turnaround, and so the future's bright there too. And so, those kids set the tone for our program. And I asked them, what's your legacy? What do you want it to be? And they got tired of me. They would never say it. Finally, they kind of admitted they got tired of me always telling stories about Mercer County, about this is what we did and this is how we did it. So I told them, I was like, well, what you all did is that, now I can tell stories about you all to future teams. This is how they did it. This is what they did. And so there's your legacy to the program. And that's what you want. They've been such a positive influence to our younger kids and our younger players, and so we've got a lot of good young players. Our freshman team lost one game and won the 13th regional tournament. Our JV went undefeated. I coach middle school. Our sixth grade, we've got some really good, talented younger kids. So our program is sitting good, and we're real excited about the future. And it's going to be some fun times.
Last time you told us that, you won 2 state championships, Coach.
Well, I hope I can do that here. And I think these kids, you really don't think you can do it. And then when you get there, and I told them, I was like, girls, you get there and anything can happen. Some of it's luck of the draw, which, apparently we didn't have the luck of the draw. But I also told them, I said, you can look at it, we did, because we got to play at noon. If we'd had another draw later in the day, you wouldn't. So maybe we did have the luck of the draw. And so those things are part of it. Upsets happen, and I'm sure other teams at the state tournament, when we beat Sacred Heart, we're thinking, oh my gosh, South Laurel just opened the floodgates.
Yeah.
And really, I watched Bullitt East the day before, and we said, oh my gosh, they could win this whole thing. They're really good. And we had played Casey County during the year. They beat us by 3, so we knew how good they were. And of course, Riles got Maddie Shear, so.
And they didn't even play with her. They didn't even play with Maddie Shear in the first game.
No, she would have played moving forward. But then you had, those teams, Bowling Green and Henderson's at the state tournament every year. So you just don't. Marshall County had tradition, so you just don't know those teams that didn't get to play. I didn't really see any of those during the season. So, but our chances, we told our kids we're going to be in the Elite Eight. So, and I told them that was what happened at Mercer. It's who's hot.
Right.
And we felt like our team at South was playing as good or better than anybody in the state of Kentucky, coming into that. So we really liked our chances.
Well, you proved it, and how about that freshman hitting that free throw to, because Sacred Heart at the very end hit that three right at the buzzer, and that free throw was a telltale.
Well, we called timeout after the first one, and I basically said I don't care if she misses the second one, makes or misses the second one. In fact, my son said it might be better. We didn't tell her that, but it might be better if she misses the second, which it probably was. Because the clock had to run quicker and they couldn't set anything up, and then we were able to tip the ball, even though they had it. We were just like, I was even almost tempted to say, hey, bring them all over to the bench, next to me and let them shoot it because stranger things have happened. But I didn't care if they made that shot or not. What's the matter if we win by 4 or win by 1? We didn't care. But yeah, that was a huge free throw, and we were in top 3 or 4 in the state all year in free throws percentage. So. But we just kept telling our kids, don't get down. As long as we make 1 or 2 each time, we're probably going to be okay. So, Rachel's up there in a lot of big situations. Nobody on the line. That kind of gets in your head a little bit. Nobody, none of your teammates are up there. And that was a big stage for her. So that's what I kept telling her. Don't worry about it. Just make 1 of 2 each time, and we're good. So, so we had a lot of big people step up in big plays. People, like you said, I'm glad you showed the 2 charges. And then when you look at our bench, you can look at still shots of our bench. You take a kid like Emily Cox, who came from being a starter most of the year as a freshman I saw some pictures, and she's leading the cheers on the bench, and she probably played 2 or 3 minutes that entire game, but she's leading the cheers, and that's when you got a special team. And that is the definition of a team. I mean, we can go back at any time. I've had parents and fans say, I just love watching your bench. Because those kids were excited and having fun and in for their teammates.
This was after the game here. You're going to see the 3 that Sacred Heart hit, and then I believe we got a little bit. Well, no, I guess we didn't. We cut the replay off a little bit sooner, but we've got the whole game recorded. And as far as at the end of that game, and you see the bench and just how ecstatic they were as the girls were coming over to the sideline, that was something special. And then every charge that the team took, I noticed from where my advantage was how the bench was reacting to it. So you're right, man. Everybody had a buy-in on that game.
But if you don't, that's the thing is that the special teams and your championship teams, are like that from your best player to your last player on your bench, and to your managers and to your anybody that's over there. You've got a part in it. You got to do your part, and and that's it. You kind of got to hit lightning in a bottle, and that's kind of what our kids did, and got hot at the right time, bought in all year, and and it's like I said, it wasn't always, there's a lot of rough days, some rough practices and things like that, and but those kids handled it, like I would expect them to.
Coach, I certainly hope that we get to finish this thing, and man, I'd love to see you walk across that stage one more time and get that trophy.
Yeah, I would love to, and doing it at another school, like I said, I love my time at Mercer, and I love that place, and what those kids were able to accomplish was special. But if we could do it here at South, I mean, at Mercer, it got to where it was pressure because it was expected, especially that second year. And what we did with this team this year, where we got, nobody expected it. Everybody thought we would choke again, and either in the semifinals, or I'm sure there's a lot of people that got Sacred Heart and said, big deal. They won't last. They'll get blasted by them. And, our kids didn't listen to the noise, and, they just bought in and truly believed, and, they could win, and we're excited. And, and that's what you got to have in a championship level program. And hopefully we can build on it. That's what I tell our kids, and I'll have to tell them, if we don't get to play the returning kids, is that, okay, all this means is that now you got a little target on your back, so you're going to have to work even harder. You're not going to sneak up on anybody anymore. But another thing we said, too, is that we get out and we play. I'll play anybody, anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
And so you got to get out and you got to play. You don't have to win them all, but you got to get out there. I'm not afraid to play Sacred Heart. We went to Butler a week before the district tournament and played at Butler. It's probably the best defensive team we played all year. I know it was. And so we played some top teams in Florida. So we didn't care. And that's the way you got to see, what it's going to take. And so when you get on that big stage, our kids weren't nervous. They weren't, intimidated. They'd been there. They'd seen these kids and seen this level of play. So I think that's important too, is you got to get out and expose your kids.
Yeah, well, you certainly do a great job of that, Coach. One of the toughest schedules, that you can put together there in the 13th region, and then playing opponents that are outside, going to Louisville and doing things like that. And you never shied away from big games either. I mean, you've always played top teams in the state.
Well, you have to be the best, you got to beat the best. And like I said, you don't have to win them on. So I've gotten blasted my fair share of times, and you want to compete and you want to get better. And plus, I want to know what my weaknesses are. And those great teams are going to expose your weaknesses. Even if you win, they're going to expose your weaknesses. And if you don't know what your weaknesses are when you get in the tournament, come March, you're in trouble. So, those kids. Last year we didn't handle it very well. We'd play those top teams. We didn't compete, or we might compete for a while and we'd go right back to what we were comfortable with. So this year we did a much better job, even though Sacred Heart beat us pretty good. I wasn't real worried about that. It's about getting out there and seeing what you need to do, and those are eye openers. And at that time of the year in January, I'm good with that. Say, okay, guys, they just exposed every weakness we have. They exposed every one of them. But then later it paid off for us. Because those kids are not shocked by anything that they see.
Yeah. Well, much love and much success to you and your program, and we wish the seniors well as well, Coach. And we hope that it doesn't end the way it's end right now. But if it does, it's still amazing. Still amazing. But we hope that you get to walk across that stage one day soon and grab that third championship for yourself and then for Laurel County.
Well, I hope we can too, and that's what you play for, and all the work, and that's what we invest all this time for. Is these are memories that these kids have made, and they'll never forget that. And even if you don't, they're not going to forget this. And and that's what it's about. I want these kids to now they're wearing that South Laurel jersey with pride, and they know what it means to be a part of the program. And like I said, you're not only representing that, you're representing your community, and that's what we want to do. And the way they conduct themselves is just as important to me as what the scoreboard says. So we're trying to do that too. And also appreciate everything you do for high school sports, man. The PrepSpin is just phenomenal. Going back and watch his games. I even went back and watched a game. I got on YouTube and watched. We played Sacred Heart at Mercer a couple years ago, and and that was kind of a controversial ending and all that kind of stuff. So I went back and watched that. So what you do for high school sports is just phenomenal.
You always play Sacred Heart close, by the way. Do you notice that?
Yeah, no. And here's a funny thing too is that Donna's a great coach. She's a Hall of Famer, and she's kind of to the forefront of girls basketball. And the Kentucky Ohio All-Star game, Donna is the head coach and I'm the assistant coach. So that'll be a pretty fun experience. So maybe I'll give her the defense and she'll let me do the offense.
There you go, Coach. I suggest you go get you a Sprite. I've got mine. I got mine, Coach.
There you go. Yeah.
All right, man. It's been great talking to you, Coach Souder.
You too, man. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk at you again and hopefully see you at Rupp here in a month.
Yeah, I hope you're right. We'll be there if it is.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, man.